Reminder. Okay, Shalom Aleichem. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are going to start, although we already began, we're going to begin Perek Sheni, the second Perek of Shas, of Masechet Berachot, our second chapter. In this chapter, we speak a lot about Shema Yisrael, important topics, and we're going to get into some halachot right away. There's a lot to discuss. As I mentioned last week, we have a chart this week. We could go through the chart and discuss different points of the Shema Yisrael that we're allowed to speak, when we're allowed to speak, why we're allowed to speak, and there's obviously a lot more that this could be expanded on, but let's go. We're going to start with the Mishnah, Gemara Masechet Berachot. The Mishnah is the second chapter, Daf Yud Gimel Amud Bet. If you're looking in the article, it is 13A3, and I will share my screen, and let's go. Share screen. Let's hang out on the bottom. Okay, share screen. Mishnah. Haya Korei baTorah. A person is reading the Torah in the morning before the sun rises. Okay, 2 a.m. he's reading Torah, 3 a.m. he's reading Torah, 4 a.m. he's reading Torah, 5 a.m. he's reading Torah, and all of a sudden it becomes time of the Shema Yisrael in the morning. As he's reading the Torah, it happens to be the part of the Torah that he's reading is the Shema Yisrael. And he's reading the Shema Yisrael not to fulfill the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael, to read the Torah, but it happens to be the time of Shema Yisrael. So the question is, do you fulfill the mitzvah of reciting Shema Yisrael when you didn't explicitly have that in mind? You were just reading Torah. Another example could be, let's say you're reading a mezuzah. Mezuzah has Shema Yisrael in it. So let's say you're checking the mezuzah and you're reading it as you're checking the mezuzah. Or let's say you're reading the Torah that week of Parashat Vayetchanan. You're reading the Torah that week. Or let's say you're doing Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum and you're just reading that part. So I'm not doing the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael, but I'm reading the Shema Yisrael. Does that count? That's the question that's the first case of our Mishnah. Case number one of our Mishnah, Haya Korei baTorah, V'higia Zman HaMikra, and the time for the reciting Shema arrives. Im kiven libo, if he focuses his heart and has Kavana meaning having intention, yatsa, he fulfills his obligation. What is the implication? That if he does not have intention, then he does not fulfill his obligation. If he has an intention, he fulfills obligation. The question is, has intention, what does that mean? Intention for what? Okay, very good. So, when it says, Im kiven libo, he has kavana, meaning that I want to fulfill the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael, which means we're going to allow you to double up that while you're reading the Torah and doing Shnai Mikra, that you fulfill the mitzvah of Shema, as long as you have kavana, which the way you're saying is, has kavana to fulfill the mitzvah. Okay? Yes?
So let's say you have the Kavana and you're reading the Torah with Shema, but you don't read every paragraph that's in the actual Shema Yisrael. At what point is it qualified as a...
Okay, excellent question. So you're asking, I love this. You're asking, okay, if this works, that I'm reading Torah and then I fulfill my mitzvah of Shema, so then what exactly was I reading? Was I reading all 3 paragraphs? Those 3 paragraphs are not in the same order in the Torah. So does that mean I was only reading 1 paragraph? If I was only reading 1 paragraph, does that mean that that's all you need? Maybe you just need that first pasuk, or you need that first paragraph. Or maybe it happens to be that I happen to be reading all 3 of them, right? And it's just like, but why would you just happen to be reading that? So the Shema Yisrael in the mezuzah is the first 2 paragraphs. Maybe I'm reading a mezuzah. You're asking an excellent question. Different opinions will give different answers. The opinions that say that you only need to read the first line to fulfill the mitzvah are saying you're just reading the first line. The opinions that say you need to read 2 paragraphs are saying it happens to be you read both paragraphs. That actually might work because they're close to each other. Or like I said, let's say you're reading a mezuzah. You're reading off a mezuzah, and you have both there. The one that says all 3, I guess it could be you happen to be reading all 3. That's like the case. So in other words, while you have a proof, we're actually going to discuss this a little bit more at length in the Gemara that's coming up. It's not going to explicitly ask this question, but the topic of how much of the Shema you need to read will come up. Okay? Very good. Yes?
Maybe it's saying, if you only is middle of the night, you're falling asleep, that you read it, or you awake when you read it, or not just Bekaven that I'm going to be Yotzei Mitzvah. That in Kiven is actually Like if you're awake, if you're.
Okay, so when we're saying having kavana, now there is one option means I have kavana to fulfill the mitzvah. There could be something else. I have kavana to actually do this correctly. So your example is the guy's falling asleep. There could be other reasons why you don't actually need to read it correctly. Okay, put that on pause. There could be another thing that you have kavanah for. We're going to see that in the Gemara. And Igal is asking a question: does intention need to be verbalized? Do I need to say "Hineni mechlan u'mezuman"? Do I need to verbalize it, or can I have it in mind? No, the Mishnah is saying belibo. You have to just have the intention. Intention is intention in the mind. You don't have to explicitly state it. Now, obviously, if you explicitly state it, that's even better because it's making it very clear what you have in mind. But that's not a requirement. Okay.
Can someone say if he's wrong?
Good question for a different time. For a drunk question is like a whole different thing in halakha. It depends on how you define what drunk is. Okay, but it's for a discussion for another time. That's the case, the first case of the Mishnah. Case number 2 of the Mishnah, or discussion number 2 of the Mishnah, is going to be when, if at all, are you allowed to speak in the Shema Yisrael? So what we're going to say is ba perakim. Ba perakim, what do they translate it as? Ab initio. Okay, I gotta work on my Latin. Ab initio. Ab initio. Ab initio. I don't know what that means. Ba perakim means between paragraphs. I don't know why they happen to think that the English translation will be better with Latin, but there's probably like some legal term here. Ab initio. Yeah, is that Italian? What is it? Ab initio. You're gonna go home tonight. You're gonna say ab initio. Okay, from inception. That's actually not what it means, though. Ba perakim. Okay, I think it's a mistranslation. Ab initio, you're telling me it means from the inception. Okay, that's not what ba perakim means. Ba perakim means between paragraphs. So that could be from inception, meaning before the first, obviously. But ba perakim means between 2 paragraphs, which we're going to define what those are. The first opinion of the Mishnah says, Sho'el mipnei hakavod u'meshiv. You are allowed to sho'el, which means to greet someone whom you honor, that you have kavod for, u'meshiv, and you're also allowed to respond to the person. Okay, and we're going to discuss what does it mean, whom are we honoring? I have a chart for you. But first, let's just get our terms, then we'll define our terms. In a situation where you honor someone, you're allowed to greet them and respond to them, ba perakim, which means in between paragraphs, but not in the middle of a paragraph. Not if I'm right in the middle of a paragraph of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, not now. But between paragraphs, I'm allowed to. Uva emsa, but if I'm in the middle of a paragraph, I'm like in the middle of something, sho'el mipnei hayirah u'meshiv. You're allowed to both sho'el, which means to greet someone, and meshiv means respond to them if you fear them, not if you honor. And the idea is that fear is a higher level than honor. Okay, so we're going to have to define. What you're going to see now in the Mishnah is that everyone agrees in our Mishnah that out of fear, you're allowed to speak however, whenever. If there's a fear, you're allowed to greet the person and respond to the person between paragraphs and in the middle of the paragraphs. Because in a situation of fear, everything is allowed. The question is more about honor. This is Divrei Rabbi Meir. This is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. So according to Rabbi Meir, when are you allowed to speak for out of honor? For someone that you honor, according to Rabbi Meir? In between paragraphs, what are you allowed to do? Greet and respond. To initiate and to respond. That's in between paragraphs. In the middle, not for honor. Okay? That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, what he's going to do is he does stepwise. Rabbi Yehuda, just keep in mind, he says there's a difference between greeting and responding. Rabbi Meir says there's no difference. If I'm allowed to speak, I'm allowed to speak to greet and to respond. Rabbi Yehuda says no, there's a difference. There's a difference between me initiating a greeting and responding to a greeting. I should be more lenient when it comes to respond. Someone comes to me and says hello, and I'm not going to say anything. That's worse than me just not saying anything. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to differentiate. Rabbi Yehuda Omer be'emsa, if I'm in the middle of a paragraph, sho'el mepnei hayirah, you're allowed to greet someone out of fear, umeshiv mipnei hakavod, and you're allowed to respond For sure for fear, because I'm even allowed to greet for fear. But even for just honor, I'm allowed to respond, says Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, if I'm in the middle of a paragraph, I'm allowed to respond for honor, which Rabbi Meir does not allow me to do. Uva parakim, and in between paragraphs, for some reason here they translate it as in the breaks between paragraphs, they don't translate it as ab initio for some reason. I just think it's a mistranslation. But in between paragraphs, uva parakim, between paragraphs, shoel mipnei hakavod, you are allowed to greet for honor, umeshiv shalom lechol adam, and you're allowed to respond to anyone. Someone that it's like your younger brother. Anything. You don't fear, you don't honor, still you're allowed to respond. So says Rabbi Yehuda, when it comes to responding, I allow you to do a step less. Okay, let's go ahead and pull out two charts. Are you ready? Spend a lot of time on this. What? Sorry? What do they disagree? Okay, I love this. They only disagree on one part. Okay, which part do they disagree on? Okay. Okay, very good. If you're in the middle, you're only allowed to respond out of honor, according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Meir, you're only allowed, no, not only. You're allowed to respond out of honor, and Rabbi Meir would say out of fear. There's one more difference. What about in between paragraphs? Between, so he said between the paragraphs. No. So he said in the middle. Rabbi Meir says that you could only, right? Is that what you said? Rabbi Meir says you're only allowed to respond out of fear, and Rabbi Yehuda says no, even out of honor, you're allowed to respond in the middle. So he takes the responding a step easier. In between paragraphs, he does the same thing. Whereas Rabbi Meir says you're in the between paragraphs, you're allowed to respond even for honor, and Rabbi Yehuda says for anyone. L'chol adam, you could respond for anyone. So it's allowed, but he allows even more people. So it's more inclusive. Let's go ahead and see that on the chart. Here we go. I have two charts to share with you. Number one is here. Okay. I want to do, let me do the opinions first. Okay. Look at this. I got some red and green. Red means stop, and green means go. Okay. Meaning you're allowed to and not allowed to. Okay. So I just want you to focus on the right side of the screen. For Yir'ah, everyone says you're allowed to do everything. Okay. If you have fear, which we're going to define what that means, you're allowed to initiate a greeting, you're allowed to respond to a greeting in the middle of paragraphs, and for sure between paragraphs. Okay. With that in mind, really the discussion is out of honor. Okay. So let's talk about between paragraphs. Between paragraphs should be easier because like I finished the paragraph. Okay. So again, for out of honor, Rabbi Meir allows me to between paragraphs to greet and to respond between paragraphs. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to greet out of honor, but you're allowed to respond to anyone. So this is a difference. Okay, let's make this yellow. Because there's a difference here. Right? You see that? Mr. Basan, you see the difference here? So the difference is, yeah, they both say allowed, but he's saying allowed for honor. He's saying, no, you're allowed to respond to anyone. And what about in the middle of the paragraphs? Rabbi Meir says you're only allowed to interrupt in the middle of the paragraphs for fear. But for honor, you're not allowed. But as Rabbi Yehuda says, I agree that for honor, you shouldn't greet and initiate, but you're allowed to respond. So to your point, really the machloket is there's 2 points. It has to do with responding only. When it comes to responding between paragraphs, so Rabbi Meir says for honor, and Rabbi Yehuda says to anyone, you're always allowed to respond between paragraphs. And then when it comes in the middle of a paragraph, Rabbi Meir says you're not allowed to, out of honor, you're not allowed to respond. It's only out of fear, but out of honor, you're not allowed to. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you are. Okay, so these are the differences. That number one, if you look at the pattern between paragraphs, Rabbi Meir does not distinguish between greeting and responding. He does not distinguish between greeting and responding. He says between paragraphs allowed, in middle paragraphs not. Rabbi Yehuda goes a step down. He agrees with him on the greeting. he just goes a step down for the responding and allows is more lenient when it comes to respond. Does everyone see this visual? Is it helpful? Okay, good. Now let's talk about what does it to mean to honor and what does it mean to fear. What is kavod? What is yirah? Let's see. Let's see what you think. What does it mean kavod? What does it mean yirah? Yes. Okay, so that's so. How about I turn your question into a proposal? Proposal of honor is someone that I honor, someone that I want to show honor to. It could be anyone that I decide that I want to honor. I want to be honorable, or I want to show honor to this person. This is what I'm allowed to do. Whereas someone that I don't need to honor, then that's when we is a level less. So that's one proposal. Other options, yes.
Here is a mafia walks by and expect you to have to say hello.
Okay, very good. So there's two things that you said here. Number one, let's talk about fear. Fear, you said someone is a mafia. So in other words, someone that could hurt you, someone that could kill you, right? So that's what we mean by fear. Fear of getting killed, or fear of at the very least getting hurt, right? So that's the fear. Honor, you said someone that you honor, which is like what Cody's saying, but then you gave a specific example by a rabbi, right? So are you saying it's specifically rabbi or it's anyone that you honor? Like let's say I honor, I don't know, Bruce Willis, right? Like let's say, for example, it's senator. Yeah. Yeah, we have them. We have them weekly. They have these things. In the middle of Shema Yisrael, they haven't come yet. They don't come that early. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like exactly. So I'm bored. Yeah, that's someone you want to show honor to. It's someone that's in the government, someone that you want to show honor to. Okay, so that's like what Cody said. Yeah. Okay. So now Tomer is saying, no, honor is I'm following the Torah. What's kavod? Kaved avicha. Torah tells me who I have to give honor to. Your father. And the king, you're saying you have to have fear. Why do you fear a king? Okay, so Hekar, so you're saying the same thing as Gabriel is saying. It's just he said mafia, you said king. Yeah, okay, very good. Any other ideas? Yes. Is that honor or fear? Honor is someone that has a stature, someone that's wealthy. You could in wealth it, someone that is a honorable person, maybe recognizably to others as well. Yeah, you have more? Oh, very good, Cody. So Cody is basically saying, like, let me go through Shulchan Aruch quickly in my brain, because this is what he's doing. You know, he did that last week with the Mishnah. You guys saw him, right? I said, what is the earliest time of saying Shema? He spit out the answer like that. So he just did that through Shulchan Aruch. And you said, there's halachot in Shulchan Aruch, when there's an elderly person, a 60-year-old person or a 70-year-old person, I have to stand up when they walk into the room. That's someone I have to show honor to. So maybe that's what it's talking about. It's talking about when someone is elderly and I have to stand up for them, maybe I could say hello to them also, or I could respond to them. That's another theory. Yes. Oh, so this is what I was trying to see if Gabriel was saying. He wasn't, and you just stole his answer. Yes. You're saying specifically, no, he gave up the answer. He said the right answer and then he just threw it away. So it's free for the day. Yeah, he just picked up an answer. But yeah, a Torah scholar, specifically a Torah scholar, not just anyone that I honor, but someone that's honorable from Torah standards, not wealth, Torah. That's another option. Okay. Any other options? Yes. Oh, okay. And Ita is scanning through the Torah, and he's Parshat Kedoshim. He says, "Ish imo ve'aviv tira'u." A person should fear his father. Now, it's important that we are redefining the word yirah here, because the way Gabriel and Tomer define the word yirah, it's fear of getting killed. It's not from your father. That's not the same fear. What is it with your father? What is yirah? Yirah is more awe, reverence, respect. It's like a different type of fear. It's more of awe and reverence. Exactly. So maybe that's how we should define this word. Okay? Good? Yes?
I think we're like starting to see Rabbi point because we're kind of bucketing into everyone as honorable.
Oh, so now it's sort of like, okay. Well, okay, even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that there is someone that's called kavod and there is someone that's called yirah, but he's more lenient. But I don't think that he says these categories don't exist because he does use the category himself. But it is a good point how, to the extent we're gonna allow some of this, it becomes more subjective. And then it's like, well, why would you allow him out of honor and not him out of honor? So, okay, I'll let you respond to anyone. Okay, very good. Are you guys ready to see the chart? Guess what? Igal, what do you think the answer is?
Sorry, Rabbi, I'm putting my kids to sleep.
Just say machloket. I'm just saying, just say
Machloket.
machloket. Yeah, you try to give the right answer. Just say machloket. So the answer is, it's a four-way machloket. Okay, it's a four-way machloket, even though there's only two, but there's a four-way machloket. And I will say I got this chart from this link of Kol Eliyun Hadaf. So let's go through the four opinions. According to Rashi, Rashi is kavod, honor is any person whom people honor. It's someone that's honorable. I think this is what you were saying. Someone that people generally honor, or someone that I honor. That's a very inclusive term of anyone that I want to show honor. When fear, according to Rashi, is fear of someone who may take your life. The Mafia King answer that Gabriel and Tomer you said. The Rambam agrees about yirah has to do with like fear of life, but for kavod he makes it more specific. He gives us three specific examples. Number one, he includes father for kavod. Who said kabed davicha? Who said that on answer? Itai said that? No, Itai said yirah. Who? I forgot who said it. You said it? Yeah, you said kavod. Very good. Or your rabbi, you're giving honor to your rabbi, he includes, or any person with more knowledge than you. According to the Rambam, there's a whole knowledgeable aspect, presumably more Torah knowledge. So he includes Talmidei Chachamim, which is what you said, or at least relative Talmidei Chachamim, someone who is wiser than me. Okay? Now, according to Shulchan Aruch, which I could show you, but Shulchan Aruch, I don't like the order, but Rashba, let's go to number 4, because I think Shulchan Aruch, there's like logic to it. Rashba is answer number, let's say answer number 3. He agrees with the Rambam that the honor is anyone who is more knowledgeable than you, but the fear are the other two examples that the Rambam said, is your father and your Rebbe. The Rashba's main issue is, the question that he has is, what do you mean if I'm afraid someone's going to take my life, you're allowed to say hello to him? I mean, if you're scared for your life, you're allowed to do anything. We don't need our Mishnah to come in and say, if there's a fear for your life, then in the middle of a paragraph, you could respond to someone. If there's fear for your life, you could do anything, right? So let's see what they write here. I'm pretty sure there's a Rashash. To defend Rashi's explanation, we must say that the person's life is not actually in danger at the moment. It's not like the mafia person has a gun in their hand. Rather, the person whom he fears has the ability to take his life at a later time. Meaning, it's someone that if he brushes the wrong way, later on, it could end up getting him in trouble. You don't want to create problems. This is not someone you want to mess around with. Not because he's going to kill you in this moment. If he's going to kill you in this moment, do whatever. You could eat non-kosher, you could break Shabbat, you could do anything. Almost anything. But it's more of it's someone who's dangerous. Not exactly in this moment. Rather, the person whom he fears has the ability to take his life at a later time if he does not maintain a friendly relationship with him. For this reason, it is permitted to interrupt Kriyat Shema for that person every time he comes by. Okay? But the Rashba doesn't like that, so he takes the Rambam and he splits him in half. He says, fear is for your father. This is what Itai said. Fear, Yirah is the father, or your rabbi, where you also have to fear. Because there's a pasuk that says, Et Hashem Elokecha Tira, you have to fear Hashem, and the Talmidei Chachamim are representing Hashem from that Torah aspect, so you have to fear them, and you honor anyone that has more Torah knowledge than you. Shulchan Aruch comes and basically says, I'll make everything easier for you. Meaning, Shulchan Aruch takes the more lenient opinion on everything. What is honor? Anyone who you honor. Anyone who you want to honor, you're allowed to honor. It doesn't have to be specifically someone that has more Torah knowledge, or your rabbi, or your father. It's anyone. And then, for fear, for sure someone who wants to take your life, who could take your life, but also your father and also your rabbi, meaning he picks the easiest of all opinions, the most lenient of all opinions. So this is a four-way machloket. Shulchan Aruch basically tells us. So if we're going to go according to Shulchan Aruch, the answer is, everyone said it, honor is anyone who you honor, which is what Korei and Cody were saying about anyone who you honor. It could be Rabbi Ben Chaim, for example, but it doesn't have to be a rabbi. It could be anyone who you honor. Whereas fear is like what Itai said, is your father or your rabbi, and for sure someone that you're scared for your life. But here, the way according to Shulchan Aruch, fear is defining it as really as awe, as reverence, not as fear for your life. Fear for your life for sure is allowed. Yes. Okay, so the numbers here is footnotes. So someone who may take your life, footnote number 1 is saying, of course you must interrupt to greet someone who may take your life. So he gives an answer. It's like, no, he's not going to take my life now. That's number 1. Footnote number 2, where it says someone who is more knowledgeable than you are, they just right here, more knowledgeable in Torah. That's footnote number 2. I got this from a source, another website. So that's what this footnote is. Footnote number 3 is just giving the source of the Rashba. Footnote number 4 is going through something about Shulchan Aruch that we don't need to. Footnotes number 5 and 6 are just giving the sources of where the Rambam and Shulchan Aruch are. Okay, but the main footnote here is footnote number 1. That's where we had that discussion. Okay, we're gonna ask some questions now. Quiz time. You guys ready to be quizzed? Okay. According to Rebbe Meir, who am I allowed to respond to between paragraphs? I don't even know. So you better get it right. According to Rabbi Meir, who am I allowed to respond to between paragraphs? People you honor. And I believe that's the correct answer. According to Rabbi Yehuda, who are you allowed to respond to between paragraphs? Anyone. Okay? He's got his finger on his butt. He's hot. Watch out. He's going to do the next one. I'm going to trick him. I'm going to trick one. According to Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what are you allowed to do in the middle of a paragraph?
And respond to something. Hello and out of fear, out of honor, or fear.
So that's my question is, what are you allowed to do?
Here's a response there. You respond to fear. Anyone you fear, respond to honor.
You could respond, not greet to. When you honor. Remember, for fear, you're allowed to do anything. Here, let me bring up the screen again. I don't even remember what my question was. What was it? According to Rabbi Yehuda, what are you allowed to do? I said in between paragraphs. Okay, so fear, you're allowed to do anything, anytime. Oh, if I said that, then okay, then you're allowed to greet out of even for honor, and you're allowed to respond to anyone. If it's in the middle of a paragraph, then you're not allowed to greet the person. If you're in the middle, you're not allowed to greet the person out of honor, but you are allowed to respond to the person out of honor. Okay, look, I could ask like a million questions here, but hopefully you get this. The fear, anything is allowed. The question is then about out of honor. Rabbi Meir says out of honor, anything goes between paragraphs, but nothing goes in the middle of paragraphs. That's Rabbi Meir. Anything goes between paragraphs, nothing goes in the middle of a paragraph. And Rabbi Yehuda says, hold on. I'm going to differentiate between greeting and responding. When it comes between paragraphs, so actually in the middle of a paragraph or in the middle, don't greet the person out of honor, but you can respond. And if it's between paragraphs, you could greet the person out of honor and you can respond to anyone that you want. Okay? Okay, good? This is a little bit confusing, but we have a chart here. You could practice it. I could send the chart afterwards so we could study it. And Cody could download it into his brain. So next time I ask, he's just going to check this out. So B4 says, you want to do that? No, just Mishnayot you're going to memorize. Okay, fine. Let's go back to the Gemara. By the way, I'll take this as a moment that we could speak about this. I set a goal for us to memorize the Mishnayot of the first parak. You didn't do all of them, did you? You got through the first three? I think Jared or Jarabchi also did a few. Your nephew did some? Yeah. Your nephew does all of it. His nephew's 3 years old and he knows all the shots by heart. But how old is he actually?
Turned 9.
He turned 9. Oh, okay. Happy birthday. So it's amazing. But you did the first one. You didn't even do the first one. Okay, I think I did the first 3. I don't know. I could test myself now, but I'm being recorded. I'll test myself later. But anyway, it's a good time. We finished the first parak. It's always good to have good reviews. So go back, review it, and we're starting a new parak. So let's expand our goals. You also were doing it. You did the first one. Yeah, you sent me a voice note. Okay, now I see you in person. I remember. Okay, here we go. Let's go. Continuing next part of the Mishnah, we now need to define what is considered between paragraphs and what is considered in the middle of paragraphs. Are you ready? It's pretty intuitive. Eluhen ben aprakim. This is what I consider between paragraphs. Ben bracha rishona l'shniya, between the first bracha and the second bracha. Ben shniya l'shma, between the second bracha and Shema Yisrael. That break. Baruch Atah Hashem ohev et amo Yisrael. Someone comes and says hello to me. Now I can respond, and then I can say Shema Yisrael. For example, Ben shniya l'shma. The next break is Ben Shema leVahayim Shamoa. From Shema to Vahayim Shamoa. Ben Vahayim Shamoa leVayomer. Between Vahayim Shamoa to Vayomer. Very interesting. I remember someone once saying how this thing is not so intuitive for kids who they go up there, they say the Shema Yisrael, and then they pause, and then all of a sudden they resume. Or whatever it is, but you know what I'm talking about. Like when you whisper and then you resume, some people might think that that's really the next paragraph. It's all part of the same paragraph. So it's like between Vahayim Shamoa to Vayomer is really the next one. Then Ben Vayomer, the Emet V'Yatziv, and finally between Vayomer and Emet V'Yatziv, which is the bracha that comes afterwards for Shacharit. Okay? The word Emet is part of the next bracha. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ben Vayomer, the Emet V'Yatziv, between Vayomer and Emet V'Yatziv, lo yafsik. I never want you to stop. Even though Rabbi Yehuda is the one that, if you look at the screen, says between paragraphs, you're allowed to respond to anyone. You're literally allowed to respond to anyone. You're allowed to greet someone out of honor or out of fear. But he says, but between those two, nothing. And this is where you're going to see we have this practice where we say Adonai Elohim Emet. We like combine it almost as one. This reason for this is because of Rabbi Yehuda's statement. Rabbi Yehuda says between those two, never any breaks. Okay, and we're going to see in the Gemara why. So one more time, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ben Vayomer leEmet V'Yatziv lo yafsik. Never, one may not interrupt at all. According to Rabbi Yehuda, these must be recited consecutively. This has to be connected. The end of Shema to Emet V'Yatziv has to be connected. Okay? Sorry? No, the fact that there is a second Emet we should discuss it. It's really repeated. There's really only one, but it's being repeated for whatever reason. Let's finish the Mishnah, and then we'll come to your question about the second Emet, first Emet. Okay, let's finish the Shema and come to that. The Mishnah, I mean. Now, someone was asking me, I think it was Tomer, you were asking about the ordering. Why do we order the first paragraph of Shema, and then the second paragraph of Shema, and the third paragraph of Shema? Let's remind ourselves. Where is in the Torah, which parasha is the first paragraph of Shema? Parashat Vayetchanan. Ding ding, you got it correct. Another person. Where is the second paragraph of Shema? It's a 3-letter word, though. Yeah. No? Picking all the bad guys. No. Yes. Parashat Ekev. That is correct. It is Parashat Ekev, Aliyat Shishiyah, Parashat Ekev. It's V'Hayim Shamoa. Okay? Which one comes first, Vayetchanan or Ekev? Vayetchanan comes first. Okay, so we have paragraph number 1 comes from Vayetchanan, paragraph number 2 comes from Ekev, which comes after. Where is the third paragraph of Shema Yisrael located in the Torah? Which parasha? I'm just pausing to make you doubt. Yes, the answer is Shalach. Parashat Shalach is the answer. It's the end, Maftir, or Parashat Shalach. Which one comes first, Parashat Shalach or Vayetchanan? Shalach comes first. So if you had to order them based on the chronology of the Psukim of the Torah, first comes Vayomer, then comes Shema, then comes V'Hayim Shamoa. But that's not the order that we have it in our mitzvah. We first have Shema, then V'Haya, then we have Vayomer. So, and they're also not next to each other. So then now the Mishnah is going to talk about why this order was picked. Yes, question.
They're supposed to tell us, like even though Shema is separate, the last Vayomer speaks when it's time, so it's starting from the end.
Aha, okay, very good. So you're saying the reason Vayomer is last is because that's how you connect it to Goel Gal Yisrael, because that has to do with Mitzrayim. It's not really Somech Geulah Tefillah, it's really Somech Geulah LeGeulah. You're connecting going through the theme of Geulah to Geulah, which is very, very nice. Let's see if that's what the Mishnah says. Okay? Let's go. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Korcha. Lama kadma parashat Shema leVahaya im Shamoa. Why does the paragraph of Shema come before V'Haya? Here's why. so that you first can accept the heavenly yoke, the yoke of heaven, the accepting Hashem as our king. And the second paragraph is when we accept to do his mitzvot. What does that mean? The first paragraph of Shema is talking about the belief of God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashem is our God. Adonai Echad. He is our one God. He is the entire source. That pasuk of Ve'ahavta Adonai Elecha b'chol levavecha b'chol nefeshecha b'chol me'odecha, you have to love him. That is really accepting Hashem as our God. That comes first. The second paragraph is Haya im shamoa tishmeu el mitzvotai. If you listen to my mitzvot, then I'll give you rain, I'll give you blessing. You'll have food. And if you don't listen, then you get kicked out of the land. But the second paragraph makes sense that is accepting upon the mitzvot. The first paragraph is accepting God. Which one should you do? You first accept God as your king, or do you accept to do his mitzvot? You first have to accept him, step one. Step two is, okay, now I'll do what the king says. But if you don't do number one, you say, I'm going to do what he says. Who says? Hashem. Second paragraph, I accept him as Hashem. No. You first have, the first paragraph of Shema is like your pledge of allegiance. Kabbalat ol malchut shamayim. Everyone say together, Kabbalat ol malchut shamayim. What does that mean? Kabbalah means to accept the heavenly yoke on yourself. Hashem's yoke, to say, I'm under Hashem. I accept Hashem as my God. That's first paragraph. Second paragraph is, and I'll do what he says. Okay? That's on. I know there's questions. Let's finish the flow. Why did V'haya come before Vayomer? The answer is they both have to do with mitzvot. But the mitzvot of Haya apply to both day and night. The main mitzvah of the third paragraph of Shema has to do with tzitzit, and tzitzit only applies during the day. There's a Gemara elsewhere that says, "Uritem oto uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai." You see the mitzvot, the tzitzit, and you remember all the mitzvot. You see the tzitzit during daytime when there's light. During the nighttime, when you can't see it, you're not obligated in the mitzvah of tzitzit. There's a whole discussion in the Gemara elsewhere about what exactly does that mean? Does it have to do with the time of day, or does it have to do with the type of clothing? Let's say someone is wearing their daytime clothing at nighttime, then it'll apply. Or it's more like pajamas don't require it. But whatever it is, it's a discussion for another time. What we're taking now at face value, let's stipulate that the mitzvah of tzitzit in some form only applies during the day. So v'hayayim shamoa has to do with the mitzvot that apply night and day. V'hayomer is all mitzvot that only apply during the day. So it's less comprehensive in terms of when this mitzvot applies. So that comes next on the list. So the way it's saying it is, Shema comes first because you accept Hashem. Haya comes next because now you accept his mitzvot. And Vayomer is one of those mitzvot that only apply some of the time, so that'll come last. It doesn't make sense to put Vayomer second when that doesn't even apply all the time, when Haya applies all the time. It doesn't mention the Geulah to Geulah answer. Okay, that's the end of the Mishnah. Now questions. I saw there were some questions. Itai, you had a question?
Sarah, we also start with is that the same idea?
Wow, okay, I have something very nice to add here. Very good. So Itai, very good point. Say it one more time. The first of the 10 commandments is what? Very good. The first of the 10 commandments is, I am God. The belief of existence of Hashem is the first, what comes first. It's a precursor to the rest of the Torah. It wouldn't make sense to say, don't believe in any other gods as your number one. Because the first thing is, believe in me as Hashem. And number two, and don't believe in anyone else. But if you say don't believe in any other gods, it's already implicitly saying that I believe that you're a God. So that's the first one. In fact, there is this concept of the first of the 10 commandments actually is not said in command form. What do I mean? So you said it. Let's say the second commandment is Lo yeh lecha le'imachim al panai. You shall not have any other gods. The third commandment is Lo tisa Hashem l'shegem l'chashav. Don't take God's name in vain. The fourth one is Zachor et yom haShabbat lekadesho. Remember and celebrate Shabbat. The fifth one is Kabed et avicha v'et imecha. There's a verb. All of these have a verb. Don't have another God. Don't take God's name in vain, that you should celebrate Shabbat, you should honor your parents, don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery. There's verbs here of what you should and should not do. The first of the 10 commandments is what? Is it believe in me? What is it? Anochi Adonai Elohecha. I am God. It's not really a commandment. It's a statement. So we don't have 10 commandments. We have a statement and 9 commandments. So 9 and 1. Imagine calling a movie the statement and 9 commandments. It wouldn't be catchy. They just say 10 commandments. But we call it Aseret Hadibrot, which is 10 statements, really, or 10 utterances, which includes Anochi. Why is the first of the 10 commandments not given in command form? The answer is because it's almost like a precursor. You can't say believe in me, because if you don't believe in me, you wouldn't believe in me. Right? Hashem says believe in me, but if I don't believe in you, then I won't believe you. Then I won't. So why should I listen to you? That's why the first of that first mitzvah cannot even be said in a command form, because if you don't believe in Hashem, you wouldn't listen to His command. So it's just a statement. I am Hashem. Believe it, don't believe it. If you believe it, there's 9 more here. But if you don't believe it, so then, this is like the precursor. It's the prerequisite. You have to believe in Hashem in order to do 3, 4, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a similar concept. Shema is accepting that Hashem is our God, and then V'hayim Shamu, I'll do His mitzvot, and then Vayomer is one of these mitzvot. Good? Question.
Going back to responding, reading, is there an amount of time you have in between? Can you say, hey, how are you?
Okay, excellent question. You're saying if I'm going to respond, does that mean I could have a full-on conversation? Or is it just a hello? Or is it how are you? Or is it you had a question for me? Let me give you an answer. Let's go through. Let's have a meeting now. Let's say your boss is someone that you respect, and now he wants to meet with you. Am I allowed to in the middle just start answering his questions? So it's a good question. It's a good question. Let's wait till we get to the Gemara's discussion on this topic. We'll get all of the opinions lined up. And then we'll discuss the halacha aspect of it more. Okay, very good question. It's a idea of when we say a response or a greeting, is that a one-word thing or could it be longer than that? Very good question. Yeah. You're saying who said this is talking about words? Maybe it's talking about a gesture. Okay, could be. Very good. Well, once we get through this discussion in the Gemara, we could look at Shulchan Aruch. Okay, and this also we could see a chart. Like a final halacha chart. Okay, good.
What when he says the bracha, and he says hello, isn't that a second between mitzvah Shema and isn't that not allowed?
So you're asking, can someone greet between the second bracha and the Shema Yisrael?
Yeah.
So the answer is the machloket. Let's see. To greet between paragraphs is your question. For honor, everyone says you're allowed to. For honor. Right. But less than that, if it's not someone that you honor, you're not allowed to. So your question is, isn't that a hefsek? The answer is, not for someone that you honor or you fear. You're allowed to. So now you're seeing how you are allowed to have some built-in breaks. But, to Cody's point, but what exactly am I allowed to do? Am I allowed to have a full-on conversation, or it's just a one-worder? Okay, stay tuned. But that's a good way to reiterate the point. Okay, let's go.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Does it? I know the Mishnah didn't mention between the Emunah and Hashkivenu.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that they didn't include that, but they included between the first bracha of Shema and the second bracha of Shema?
Excellent question. The question of why not include Hashkivenu. So the main answer here is that it's giving you an example, but presumably it would be the same thing. It would also be in the Arvit time. It would also be considered ben prakim between the first post bracha and the second post bracha. In other words, to answer your question, it's just giving you an example. But it would apply the same at night. And the same way how between the first bracha and the second bracha is ben prakim, also the second, meaning in the back half, between the first bracha and the second bracha, So, in other words, the answer is it's giving you an
Mutar.
example. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, good. Good. Let's go. Let's get to the concept of mitzvot, tzerichot, kavana. I don't know how much time we're gonna spend. Here we go. Do you remember what was the first part of our Mishnah? Can anyone remind me? First part of our Mishnah. I'll go back to it on the screen. Someone tell me what was the first rule of our Mishnah. Go ahead. Very good. You were reading the Torah and the time of Shema came. The Mishnah says, if you have kavana in kiven libo, if you have intent, you fulfill your obligation. So that sounds like I need to have intention in order to fulfill the obligation, right? So that's what the Gemara is going to say. Shema mina, we learn from here, mitzvot, tzerichot, kavana. This Mishnah is a clear proof that mitzvot require intention. Why? Because it says the guy is reading Shema Yisrael, it comes time to Shema Yisrael. If he has Kavana, he fulfills his obligation. Which means if he doesn't have Kavana, he does not fulfill his obligation. Which means Kavana is a critical element in order to fulfill the obligation. Mitzvot, tzerichot, Kavana. There's a problem. The problem is you have an Amorah in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. What was it? In Masechet Rosh Hashanah, there was one opinion, I believe it was Rabbah. Yeah, but he gives another example, but that's exactly right. Tokea. Hold on, let me see what Rashi says. Look at Rashi. Okay, let me do it on the screen so everyone can see it. Says Rashi. Sorry?
They talked about like eating matzah on Pesach, and
Very
if
good.
you didn't want to.
Congratulations. This is, yeah, we spoke about someone who's being forced. Someone's being forced to eat matzah on the night of Pesach. Did I fulfill my obligation? I was forced. Okay, but the whole discussion there, Masechet Rosh Hashanah starts with the following example. B'tikshel Rabbah, it becomes a question according to Rabbah. Damar Masechet Rosh Hashanah. Masechet Rosh Hashanah Daf Kavchet. He says, "Hatokea lashir yatsa." Someone who blows the shofar for enjoyment, for song, he does it the right way, but he's not doing it for the mitzvah. He's doing it because he likes the sound. He fulfills his obligation. So you're saying all of the right things. Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah, it says that Rabbah says that if I blow the shofar for fun, for a song, Rabbah says if you did it the right way, you fulfill the obligation. You don't need to have intention. So that's where the Gemara says, what are you talking about? I know this question about if I'm going behind the Bet Knesset, or if you said another one, if someone is getting forced to eat matzah, or this one's got one of the examples brought up. All of these or other examples are proofs that mitzvot tzerichot kavana. This Mishnah is a clear proof that mitzvot tzerichot kavana. Gemara is going to say, not necessarily. Hold your horses. Rabbah can still be correct that mitzvot don't need kavana. How does that fit with our Mishnah? The answer is, let's see. Gemara is going to say, no, my kiven libo, what does it mean that you have to have intention? Likrot. You have to be mindful to actually pronounce the words. You don't need to have in mind that I want to fulfill a mitzvah. You need to be mindful, kiven libo means to be mindful, to actually pronounce the words. The Gemara says, likrot, what do you mean? The guy is reading. You're telling me he has to be mindful to read? Korei, he's reading. The whole example was the guy is reading the Shema, and it comes time to Shema that he fulfill his obligation. He has to have a proper intention. Proper intention means he has to actually pronounce it. What do you mean? The guy's reading. That's the whole case. No. Korei lehagia. We're talking about someone who is reading not to pronounce the words, but to proofread. Let's say someone is reading a Torah scroll and he's proofreading. Does he actually have to read everything? Does he actually have to say it? Can you proofread with your eyes? Of course you could proofread with your eyes. So you could be skimming through it. You could be skipping some lines. Tosfot actually says, and you might even want to pronounce the words the wrong way sometimes. Why on earth, the Tosfot gives us an example, why on earth would I want to pronounce words the wrong way if I'm proofreading? What? No. No. Okay, but okay. No, but why would someone that's obligated, say, I'm proofreading, so I'm going to say words the wrong way? What method is that? Oh, there's no such prohibition of reading the Torah in vain. Inshallah, that to be our biggest sin. What? Stay sharp. Why is doing things the wrong way staying sharp? Sorry? You pay attention more? Okay. I like it. What? Or maybe you don't want to say Hashem's name. That could be, maybe you're not saying Hashem's name because I'm actually just proofreading. Oh, I like that. I like it. Yes, you're allowed to. Of course, you're allowed to. You ready? Let's look at this together. I'm going to the Shema Yisrael. I'm going to pick one word. You know what? I'll pick two words for you. The word mezuzot and the word totafot. Okay, what?
And the teacher was purposely saying the word wrong, so the student would catch him up.
Ah, okay. So it could be you're saying things the wrong way because you're working with someone, like tutoring someone, and you want them to catch you. That could be. But here we're saying, let's say you're reading to proofread. I want you to add. Okay, let's look at this word totafot. How is this word spelled? How many letters? Just the totafot part, or even litotafot. How many letters? 5 if you're including the lamed, 5 letters. Okay, someone said 6. Who said 6? Who said 6? Why'd you say 6? Oh, because you can't see the screen. Okay, so let me scroll down. Itai, how many letters are in this one? Now say 6. 6. What's the difference between this totafot that has 6? Okay, Korei said it. Let me try to get this. You know what? If I get rid of the translation, then I could put them on the same spread. Okay, let's do some fun annotation with highlights. Okay, I don't know if this is gonna work, but look at that word totafot, and we'll look at that word totafot. Okay, this word totafot has 5 letters, and this one has 6. Another color. Let's go with pink. Mezuzot. How many letters does the word mezuzot here have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What does this one have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anytime I'm checking, now it happens to be I do this because of Tosfot. Anytime I'm checking a mezuzah and I get to this first one, I say tatfat. The hayula tatfat. I remember the first one has to be tatfat, mezuzot, then totafot, and mezuzot with, mezazot, tatfat mezazot, totafot mezuzot. You see the difference? Because this one, sorry, I didn't write this. In other words, you have an extra vav here, that you don't have here, and you have an extra vav in the mezuzot that you don't have in the second one. So a good way to remember is, in the first paragraph, I'm going to say tatfat mezazot. So this way I make sure it's spelled correctly. And for the second one, I'll say totafot mezuzot. So let's say that's your job is you're just checking mezuzot, and you're checking and you're reading it the wrong way because you're proofreading. And in order to proofread, to help yourself, whenever there's no vav supposed to be there, you've recited it without a vav. So that's what it means. Im kiven libo. Im kiven libo means that you're being mindful to pronounce it the right way. The Gemara says, "What do you mean pronounce it the right way? You're reading it." No, I'm reading to proofread. And when I read to proofread, I don't necessarily say every word, and I don't even necessarily say every word correctly. Im kiven libo means if you have intent to read everything correctly, then you fulfill the obligation. Why are we doing this? We're bending backwards so that you don't need to say, I'm bending backwards so I don't need to say that Im kiven libo is talking about Mitzvot, Tzerichot, Kavana. You see what's happening? Our Mishnah says something very simple. Our Mishnah very simply says, look, you're not doing the Mitzvah of Shema right now. You're reading something else. Does it count for the Mitzvah of Shema? If you have Kavana, Mitzvot, Tzerichot, Kavana, very simple. Rabbi says, no, time out. No, I don't agree with that rule. What do you mean you don't agree with the rule? The Mishnah says that. I'll tell you what it means. Im kiven libo doesn't mean I have in mind to do the mitzvah. It means I have in mind to do this action correctly. Why on earth would you be doing it incorrectly? I'm proofreading. I don't have to do it correctly then. So if while you're proofreading, you have in mind to do the words correctly, but you don't necessarily have in mind to do the mitzvah, it counts. That's the way Rabbah and the way the Gemara's rejection will explain it. Okay, good question.
Doesn't make sense to anyone. It's point this paragraphs of Shema are scattered around the Torah. Why would anyone be reading the Torah and decide I'm going to read this paragraph in this order if they're not trying to?
Oh, so Mr. Namdar asked this question. So what is it a potential answer, Mr. Namdar? So Jaden's question is, how on earth would it happen that the guy is proofreading and it happens to be that he's reading all 3 paragraphs of the Shema Yisrael and it's not even in that order? So you had a proposal. What's your proposal? You might see from here that really to fulfill the mitzvah, you only need to do the first paragraph. What if I tell you that in order to fulfill the mitzvah, you only need to read the first paragraph? Sounds like a good proof. Or maybe the first 2 paragraphs if you're doing a mezuzah. Sounds like a good proof. Or the first line even. Take it a step further. Okay, so this might be a proof for that, which it comes up in that discussion. There's like a 4-way machloket as to what you're required to read in order to fulfill your obligation. I see a few questions. Yes.
Said Shema during our meeting, you're saying Shema, like you wanted to know, should we just Shema about that?
Okay, very good. That is according to one opinion. We discussed this at the very beginning of the Masechet. There's a Pri Chadash that tells us there's a 4-way machloket as to what is the minimum amount of Shema Yisrael you need to read in order to fulfill your obligation. It's a 4-way machloket. Opinion number 1 is just the line of Shema Yisrael. Opinion number 2 is Shema ve'ahavta, the whole first paragraph. Opinion number 3 is Shema ve'ahavta and the Hayim Shamoa. And the last one is everything. Which one do we hold like? We're going to see it in Shulchan Aruch. Stay tuned. It's something that's going to come up. This discussion is our discussion. It's going to come up in our Gemara of the different opinions, and then we'll see what Shulchan Aruch says. But there are indeed different opinions, and this is a proof that goes according to the one that says just the first line or the first paragraph, which makes sense. Or even the first 2 if you're talking about a mezuzah. But the first 3, very far-fetched. But even I saw the article brings a footnote, but it happens to be the guy was reading everything. The guy was like, the guy reads the whole Torah every morning. Like, you know, some people read the whole Tehillim. This guy is reading the whole Torah, and it happens to be these are the sections that he read. Okay, good. Question? No, not necessarily. We're learning a rule here. There are a few examples. Let me ask you this. You're asking, is it common to read Shema Yisrael, not to fulfill the Shema Yisrael? Let me ask you another question. Is it common to blow the shofar exactly in the right halachot for fun, just for a song? No, it's not common. No one takes a shofar and does tekiah, teruah, shivarim, tekiah, teruah, shivarim, tekiah, teruah, do 30 blasts exactly in the right order, exactly like it's supposed to sound. And Rabbah says if it's just for fun, you fulfill the obligation. What do you mean just for fun? I'm doing it exactly correct. Okay. Sometimes I think I've mentioned this before, that sometimes Mishnayot and Halachot speak about these extreme cases. I don't mean extreme in the sense that it's crazy, but that it's a case study. You give this extreme case study because if you say something in that case, you really learn a rule underneath. And that's exactly what our Mishnah wanted to do here. It gives this specific case, and our Gemara is saying, okay, the Mishnah is giving a specific instance really for a much more general rule. And that general rule is Mitzvot Tzerichot Kavana. Our Mishnah is just teaching us that rule by example. Not that this is common. It's just the Mishnah, Rabbi Nasi in the Mishnah wants to teach us this. And the Gemara says maybe, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe what it's just telling you is that when you're saying the Shema Yisrael, you have to make sure to pronounce all of your words correctly. That could be the message. In other words, you're teaching a very specific case, but that specific case is coming to teach a more general rule. What is that general rule? 2 possibilities. Possibility number 1, what is the general rule by teaching us this first case? Mitzvot Tzerichot Kavana. General rule number 2, potential. Excellent. You have to pronounce the words correctly. And instead of the Mishnah stating this explicitly, it says it by way of example. Why? Okay, you could ask why. But it's not that this is something that was very common. It could be that you give an example really to teach a rule, right? Like teaching an extreme doesn't necessarily have to be an extreme, but it's really teaching a rule by teaching a case. The concept of case study. This comes up in really old ways of learning. Case studies. You want to learn about something in law. They bring a case. This is the situation. Sheilot utshuvot. Here's a sheila. Here's a question. What is the answer? Let's discuss the topic through that question. So it's a case. It's a case, and through that you learn the rules. Good? Time?
Rabbi, but with the example of the shofar, if he's doing it lashir for fun and he doesn't have the intention to fulfill, but didn't it say that yatsa?
Yes, according to Rabbi Yatsa.
So I'm confused. Why are we saying that mitzvot tzerichot kavana if in that case he didn't have the kavana, he was doing it lashir, and he was still fulfilled it?
So it's a machloket. It's a machloket between Rabbah and other opinions, which I believe the other opinion there, if I'm not mistaken, was Rabbi Zera. So what happened there is that it was a machloket amoraim. Rabbah is an amora. He says mitzvot ein tzerichot kavana. The other opinion says no, mitzvot tzerichot kavana. And they said, Rabbah, how could you say mitzvot ein tzerichot kavana? You have our Mishna, Masechet Berachot, and he says, the guy's proofreading is just telling you have to make sure you read correctly. Oh, I have a similar case with Masechet Megillah. The guy is proofreading over there. Oh, I have a similar case with the guy going, and he gives all of his answers where he basically says kavana in all of those cases just means being mindful for doing the action correctly. Even Rabbah, who says that if you blow the shofar for fun, for a song, you fulfill the obligation, he agrees that you have to do it correctly. If the guy just, eats the shofar, bites the shofar for fun, that doesn't mean you fulfill the obligation. You have to do the action correctly. You just don't have to explicitly have in mind that I'm doing the mitzvah. That's what Rabbah is arguing. Whereas our Mishnah's implication is not that, but that's the way Rabbah is answering. Our Gemara is just saying, look, it's not clear cut. It's clear that that's what the Mishnah, like that's the clear implication of our Mishnah, but Rabbah argues. Good? Okay. I have to say, I thought we would have done more because all we did was the Mishnah tonight, but it's very important. There's a Gemara Masechet Ta'anit, which we learned as a group. This group learned, and even if you weren't part of the group, you're still part of the group. We learned Masechet Ta'anit many years ago that if one of your students don't understand the Gemara well, it's because you didn't explain the Mishnah well. Go back and explain the Mishnah. So it's okay. We spent an entire shiur going mostly through the Mishnah, but since we did that, I need a favor from you. You have to review this. This Mishnah is going to be extremely important because we're going to have to discuss all of these different points, and we're going to go through Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Kavod, Yirah, Ben Abrakim, Bab Brakim, Abenishio. All of these things, we have to know what these things are. So spend time reviewing it. Ask your wife what these words mean. Let's review it because it's going to be important. So that's our homework. Review the Mishnah. Be'ezrat Hashem, next week we're going to pick up the Gemara and we'll hopefully be able to move faster. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Azak Baruch. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a great week.